Is Aemeath being released a little too soon? Let's talk about it. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So, I think this is a very interesting situation that we're in. Aemeath is a character that I personally expected to release far later into Lahai Roi's life cycle, but we're actually getting her pretty early on. Now, I would say that from a meta perspective, this does make sense. It is highly likely that she is probably going to be a Toon Break DPS, and if not a Toon Break DPS, then at least a character that has something to do with the gimmick. I would be surprised if she wasn't, because she seems to be a central character when it comes to Lahai Roi, and I do believe that she is probably going to embody the new mechanic that was introduced during the Lahai Roi region. So, why would she potentially feel a bit too early? Well, it's more so for story-related reasons. The thing is, I am making this video when we have not gotten the Mornier quest yet. We have to see where we are at the end of the Mornier quest. I'm going to say now that there's going to be a bit of story spoilers in this video, so if you're not interested in story spoilers for 3.0, I would suggest clicking off now because I'm going to be talking about that throughout the duration of this video. So, we did get a brief introduction to the character within 3.0. She is literally one of the first things that happens to us, in the sense that she is literally one of the first characters that we meet upon our entry into Lahai Roi. She appears very briefly, gives us a little nice message, and then off we go. We don't see her again for the rest of the quest. So, she's obviously being set up as quite a mysterious character. We don't really know much about her yet, and Kuro Games is clearly teasing her. We keep seeing her in marketing, we keep seeing her in trailers, and all around, she is a very exciting unit. I was expecting that we weren't really going to see her for a very long time, and that she was likely to kind of appear over time, until eventually she would finally appear in her own quest. But it appears that we're going to be getting her in 3.1, and because she is the first drip market for the next patch, she is going to be a first half character. Now, I will say that I have seen explosive levels of love for this character across the community. Everybody loves Aemeath. I love Aemeath, you probably love Aemeath, and I am pretty sure that most people love Aemeath, and anybody that has played PGR and likes Nanami probably has an extra incentive to like Aemeath, and I myself quite like Nanami, and I do play PGR, so there's also that angle. All around, this appears to be quite the interesting situation. I suppose because of Cardathea, I wasn't expecting us to get a character like this early on into a brand new region. Now, here's the thing. The actual crux point of Cardathea's arc happened in 2.2. That is whenever she had her main quest. But that patch, we had Cantarella release, and I feel like the reason that they did that was more so because Shakona was not out yet. She wouldn't have been able to be designed the way that she is currently designed because she didn't have an Air Erosion applicant yet. I feel like they very easily could have just done this to Spectre Rover, but instead of doing that, they decided to make Air Rover a third slot teammate for Cardathea teams. So, we know what happened there. Okay, she was released a little bit later during Septimon's introduction, and she still had a lot of relevance there in the quest in which she released, so it makes sense, and Cardathea just generally continued to be important for the rest of Renacita, but all around, she came out a little bit later, and even if she did come out in 2.2, that is still a little bit longer than how long it's taking for us to get Aemeath, but something else that I should point out is that 2.1 did not have a main quest. I believe there was only the fishing event, and I know that there was a side quest that happened in Averardo Bank, but I can't remember if that happened in 2.1 or 2.3. I'm pretty sure that happened in 2.1 though. So, we didn't get any major main story content that patch, and maybe they're just reshuffling. Maybe 3.2 is going to be the smaller patch instead of 3.1. If there's even going to be a smaller patch, they could just do something completely different this time. Kuro Games is generally quite unpredictable. It's really hard to predict their next move and figure out what they're going to do based on past information. At least that's kind of how I personally feel. Okay, maybe there's some patterns here and there that you can think of, but generally, I have a hard time thinking of any real patterns. They will take a character that looks Arrow and say, congratulations, you're Glacio. Actually, that's unrealistic. They hate Glacio characters. Congratulations, you're Fusion. You get the point. So I guess with things like these, I kind of just have to accept that Kuro's plans, no matter what I try to do to decipher them, they are beyond my understanding. They are going to do things that I am not going to understand, and then by the time it actually happens, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Now, I will say perhaps Aemeath's release does coincide with Chinese New Year, in which case that would make sense. She is clearly the most popular Lahai Roi unit, at least from what I've been seeing, though that's on the global side, and I'm not really sure what other regions think of her, though I'm assuming the love for this character is universal. I have generally only seen people say positive things about her, and I am yet to meet anybody that genuinely dislikes her. Now, obviously, if you genuinely dislike her, do let me know down below, because I am curious if there's a reason for that, and I am just interested to know if this character has any haters in general. I feel like she's one of the most universally appealing Wuthering Waves characters that Kuro has made to date. I have basically only seen positive things, and understandable, it is a great character design. I myself am quite fond of it, and I can see why lots of people like it. It's vibrant, it's interesting, and I also just think that Nanami Star Trail has a very good design, and this seems to be inspired by it, at least in my opinion. Story-wise, this character has potential. I think she looks very interesting. Her quote was also interesting, and I'm really hoping for the best here. I don't really know what to expect, and I feel like I should just kind of go in without expecting anything, which is pretty much what I was already planning to do, because ultimately, I don't really know how they're going to handle this character. Maybe they make some Nanami references. I would love to see that, but I kind of doubt that. Maybe they make some Nanami references. I am not particularly sure, but we'll just have to see. She's really cool. I am interested, but all around, it does feel quite early for her. Now, meta-wise, you could argue that it's early in that sense too. I would say it kind of depends on how they handle her. I will say this. With negative statuses, they were introduced quite slowly until we eventually got Cardathea, the Sentinel Resonator of the region, who ended up being the prime negative status unit if you had all of her respective tools. For instance, first we got Phoebe, who originally could only be played in Absolution mode until we eventually got Zani. Then we got the complete Spectral Frazzle team. Great. Then we eventually got Shakona. And then we got Cardathea. So we had explored negative statuses for a while before we finally got Cardathea. We had a complete negative status team before that unit came out. Whereas with Aemeath, it appears as if she is likely to be the first Toonbreak DPS, assuming that she's even a Toonbreak DPS in the first place. Granted, we have to see how much Toonbreak actually matters to her, and how much having Linny and Mornier is actually going to matter to her. I really hope this is not going to be Negative Statuses Part 2, where if you don't have Linny, this character is going to be next to useless for you. I really sincerely hope that she has good alternatives. Not just alternatives, but actually good ones. Zani can clear without Phoebe, but it does not feel good to play. You can do it, but it does not feel fun, at least in my opinion. I'm sure there's someone out there that does enjoy Phoebe-less Zani, but most people can agree that it's a night and day difference. I say that across lots of videos because I know there's gonna be someone that says they can clear without Phoebe, and there's gonna be someone that says they enjoy Phoebe-less Zani. I know there's going to be someone that likes it, but the vast majority of people do not like it. Therefore, I would say that majority rules here. In any case, most people can probably agree that it would not be very good if she was tied to Linny, especially considering that that's a very universal support, so you may have other places that you would want to use her. Or maybe you just didn't pull for the character because you don't like that character. That is also completely valid, so I'm hoping that she gets handled well. She is likely gonna complete the Toonbreak core, I just hope she's not reliant on it. And I'm not really sure how she's going to respond to Toonbreak. Perhaps she just buffs herself from it, or she deals more damage with it, or she can trigger it more often. There are avenues that they can take with this. I just hope that she is not going to be reliant on what Linny is able to provide her. I really don't know how they're going to handle this. I'm hoping for the best. I do hope that Kuro Games has learned from negative statuses not to do stuff like that again, and that we get a well-handled DPS here. Maybe they're trying something different because negative statuses just didn't really work out, and were not really good kit design, to be honest. They were just far too expensive to get into, and I would say that there is no negative status DPS that is really worth getting at the minute. Maybe Phoebe is still pretty decent bang for your ass strikes, but all around, there are just better characters that you can get that can work in Whimpering Wastes without needing another 5-star, for instance, because sure, Phoebe is budget-friendly in TOA, but she still ultimately wants Shakona if you want to play her in Whimpering Wastes, etc, etc. The flaws of negative status characters is never gonna end, the list will just go on and on. So, we'll see. I was expecting Kuro Games to release another character to complete the core before Aemeath. I'm quite surprised that she's going to be the one to complete this core, probably. I say probably because, like I said, she could end up being a lot more of a generalist than I'm currently thinking, and she might not even have that much to do with Toonbreak. I would just find it a little bit strange if she had nothing to do with Tomb Break, because it's clear to me that she is such an important character. All around, her being this early raises a lot of questions. She's pretty early on, so I don't really know what that means story-wise. What are we going to be doing in Lahai Roi after we have Aemeath's story arc, as I believed that she was going to be the main focus of this region? No clue where they're going in that regard, and kit-wise, how the heck are they going to handle her, and are we going to get more Tomb Break DPSs after her? Is she going to be the definitive best Tomb Break DPS? Is she going to be good in a specific way? Is she not even going to use Tomb Break that much? Is she completing a Tomb Break core? Is she going to be really reliant on Linny or not? There are so many questions to ask in relation to this character. I feel like I should just trust Kuro, wait and see, and then by the time we actually get more information officially, a more clear judgment can be made. For now, I am finding this decision to be quite curious, but at least we're gonna see a cool character sooner rather than later. Hopefully this video was able to tell you why it's a little strange that Kuro Games is releasing Aemeath so early, in my opinion. Quote-unquote early. This has been Juice, signing out, and whatever, I'll take the opportunity to get my hands on Pink Nanami a bit earlier.